Alrighty, so in this stream coming up, we're gonna play around with these two microphones, and I have the Samson Q9U dynamic microphone and the Samson G-Track Pro condenser microphone. Now, this one here, it's set up. I got filters applied and everything, but it is positioned in a suboptimal position because I decided to mount the dynamic microphone on the stand that I normally use, because to give a fair test to this mic, it has to be closer. I think between 4 and 8 inches roughly. Whereas this one I can sit further back, but it does suffer from the proximity effect where you have a heart-shaped cardioid pattern in front of it, and if you're further away, you're gonna lose a lot of bass, or you're gonna lose your low frequencies. And so for now, even though I didn't fully set up the filters on the dynamic microphone, it's working sufficiently well, and we are going to tweak the filters basically to suppress background noise, such as the low hum and the fans in my computer and the hard drive noises, in order to give us a comparable experience to what we're getting out of the condenser microphone, at least in terms of the filtering. But for now, before that, I want to talk about the last video I recorded and uploaded, in which, in fact, I didn't upload it yet, but I will be leaving a link on the recorded stream. So if you're tuning in for the recorded stream, you're going to see a link that, will pop up, a link in the description to a video in which I go over chroma key adjustments. And this was a hell of an experience because basically in OBS, this is my scene, my main scene with my main camera. And in there, you can have your cameras, like we have right here, camera group 1 and 2 camera references. And basically what happens is, in OBS, if you have a camera out in the wild on its own, like this one here, and you make changes, you apply a filter to this camera, and then you realize, well, okay, the bottom of my screen is darker than the top. You're going to need different filter settings for the chroma key down here than you need up here. And so what you can do is you can duplicate the camera like this, copy, but when you paste the camera, you can only paste a reference, as you can see here. And the consequence being that, well, okay, can I still resize it? Yes. And so, yeah, I can have different settings for the bottom and the top. But if I make changes to the filters on this one, the settings will automatically affect the other camera, since it is merely a reference to the other camera. So how do we cope with that? Well, we create a camera group. And so, camera group X, and you put the camera in group X. Then you create another group, group Y, and you put your remaining camera into group Y. And what happens now is when you apply a filter, like this chroma key filter here, and you apply another chroma key filter here, when I change the settings on one, it will only affect the top half here, and it won't affect the bottom half. Whereas if I kept it the way I had it, where I had 2 references on their own, any changes I do up here would automatically affect the bottom. And so basically this is the basic principle of the advantages of using camera groups. And that's what I covered in the last video. You can see the fruits of my labor is this bounding box and this bounding box, which represents the bottom, because like I said, this area benefits from different settings than up here. I also, I got to make some fixes. I got to do some cropping up here, because if I do a video tomorrow during daylight, the light coming through the window will cause some issues up here, but that's going to be similar to how I cropped this area over here. And see, like, I could still put my beverage or my phone over here, because I don't want my hand to be reaching into the void. You know what I mean? I want there to be some logic here. See, I could do this, I could do that. But up here, it's not very important that you can see what I'm doing here anyway, because there's a big window. But I decided to just call it a night with the chroma key adjustment, because I don't want to drive myself insane. So now, without further ado, we're going to go right into testing and playing with the microphones. And to begin that process, we're going to switch to my main monitor, and we're going to minimize the Elgato thing. We're going to minimize that. We're going to close that. We're going to close that. And so you got your microphone properties, your Windows, sound settings here, or sound control panel. And the condenser mic, you can't adjust it because it's analog. You got a little knob on the microphone, but the dynamic mic I can adjust. And so this will dictate what is being heard in the recording application. So over here I have a test, for example, where I did a test of the dynamic and condenser microphone. And so if we hit play, testing 1 2 1 2, testing 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1, or this one might be a better one. Condenser microphone, condenser, and a dynamic mic. Condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone. So the condenser might sound like, or the dynamic mic is going to be a little deeper sounding than the condenser, for example. Both of these are not being run through any audio filters. So we're going to do some recording and testing, and the way you do it in Audacity is you essentially tell Audacity to switch between each microphone and you do a recording. Then, after we do that, we are going to go back to OBS and do something very similar, except we're going to basically focus on adjusting these two filters for the dynamic microphone since our condenser is already good to go. And so without further ado, we shall proceed. Alrighty. Did my video finish? Okay, good. Nobody tuned in. Very good, very good. Oh, I'm 2 minutes late. Alright. Okay, let's begin the recorder now. Alright, so at the beginning of this stream, I played a video where I was basically just kind of going over what I was doing before this stream. So, for anybody interested, you may look at the replay or the live version in the link that I'll put on screen, in which I demonstrate that. But anyway, we're going to move on now to the microphone shootout. And basically that is... Ooh, I just ran up here to get up here on time. Because see, I started this stream like 8 minutes ago, 9 minutes ago, and then I played a 6-minute video. And then I rushed up to get here. So I'm a little winded. But luckily, nobody is watching. So, no harm, no foul, I guess. So anyway, here's what I did. I hooked up 2 microphones. I hooked up the Samson G-Track Pro, which is what I've been using for a while. It was previously mounted to this... drum stand. This is like actually the stand you would put a microphone on if you wanted to put it in front of a drum set or something like that. And I chose it because it was considerably cheaper than buying a proper microphone arm. And number 2, it is really solid. I mean, this is a pretty solid unit right here. Like, it's nice. I like it. With the minor inconvenience that, yeah, it's not on a cute little arm like this camera here. Now, would be a terrible microphone arm. And that was this issue, was I would have had to buy like a $70 arm to accommodate either of these microphones. So I decided, let's just get this $18 thing here. This is wonderful. But anyway, I had to mount the dynamic mic instead of keeping it on the stock stand because I couldn't get it in an optimal position. And it is important when you're using a dynamic mic that you speak closer, 4 to 8 inches, depending on, you know, like the manual for this says speak around 2 to 4 to 8, you know, something like that. I got a copy of the manual up here on my tertiary screen, and we'll put it here. And it literally says, see, 4 to 12 inches. And I do have a ruler here. Since it's using freedom units, I got to flip it over to the inches, the freedom unit side instead of centimeters. So, yeah, that is 6 inches. So double this would be 12 inches, right? This would be about 12 inches. This is the maximum distance that I should be using. But you got two things going on here. You have the polar pattern. The polar pattern meaning it's pretty directional. That is the reason I chose to buy a condenser microphone in the first place, because I was more confident that I can move. Oh, this. There we go. This one here, you can speak further away and it'll hear you. The disadvantage is that a condenser microphone will suffer from the proximity effect, which basically is a fancy way of saying that it loses bass. It gets, you know, less bassy when you're speaking further away. We're dealing with a cardioid pattern, meaning there is a heart-shaped pattern in front of this microphone. And when you're within a certain distance, you get optimal bass. And so let's start the shootout by toggling it over. So now I'm speaking into the condenser microphone here. And, well, you know, if I'm speaking closer, I sound better. But as I move back, you lose a lot of the low frequencies. Now, the other thing is I am using... Oh God, that's not good. I'm using these two filters. Okay, so had to toggle a filter off. So what we have going on here is a compressor and expander filter. And these serve to do two main things. Prevents me from getting too loud so it doesn't go into the red zone. And it also suppresses background noise by cutting off the background noise if it's below the threshold level. And that is why the VU meter goes into 0. Wait. I'm mixing up my microphones here. You gotta be careful here. So anyway, that's okay. So we're gonna cycle back real quick. We're gonna circle back. I'm gonna pull me a Gen Psaki. Thank goodness nobody's watching. So here we go. From the top, I played a 6-minute video during the live stream in which I went over basically what I was doing before the live stream. And now we're going to go right to the microphone shootout. And basically I have two microphones here. I have the Samson Q9U dynamic microphone. Over here we have the Samson G-Track Pro. The difference being that this one is a condenser microphone. And this has been my primary microphone for a while because I chose it since I could sit further away. It was a little bit more omnidirectional. It's set to give us a cardioid pattern, meaning that you get like a heart-shaped pattern. And so typically when it was mounted to this arm, I would have it over here. And it would pick me up pretty clearly and everything. But if I sat back, yeah, the volume levels would drop off. And you would lose bass. And so an interesting thing now is if we switch from the Q9U dynamic mic to the condenser mic, I'm going to sit a little closer to demonstrate the proximity effect, basically, where you have a heart-shaped pattern in front of the microphone, the cardioid pattern, and as I sit back, I'm going to lose some of that bassiness. I'm going to lose some of the low frequency. And essentially, when I had it mounted to this arm here, I had it at an optimal angle. I had it at an angle where, you know, it was fine. The pop filter was necessary because without the pop filter, you know, you sit this close, you're gonna get plosive. You're gonna get that popping sound. So, for example, if I take the wind sock or whatever you want to call it off of this, we go back to our dynamic microphone and I say, Peter Piper, pickled pepper. You're probably gonna hear some popping sounds. And so as it stands right now, there are two things going on. The condenser microphone is configured with a suite of filters. Well, really only two filters, compressor and expander. And essentially one of these filters will help to suppress background noise. The other one will help to prevent me from going into the red zone. And what I mean by that is when you speak loud enough, you're going to go into this red zone above 0 dB or close to 0 dB. And we want to keep us below that. The expander helps to do another thing. It helps me to normalize my volume level. Basically, this combination of filters makes it so that whether I'm speaking close or far away, whether I'm speaking lower or loudly, I will basically remain in the yellow zone. Secondly, when I stop speaking, you'll observe the VU meter will basically go to the bottom. Now, once in a while, if I move something, yes, it's going to get picked up right now. But without the filters, it's going to pick up on the fan from my computer, the fans and the hard drives. I have like 4 8-terabyte hard drives in this computer, and the 4 8-terabyte drives in this computer tower, yeah, they can make a fair amount of noise. You get clicking sounds, right, from the read-write heads. You know, every hard drive has read-write heads. And so we go here, you know. Oh, my own. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, all right. Watch it out there. All right, see, that's a hard drive. That's a read-write head. Granted, it's a baby hard drive, but the point is when this thing moves, it's going to make a clicking sound. And a normal-sized hard drive is going to make a louder clicking sound. That's not really a normal-sized hard drive either, but you get the idea. This is actually a pull from an original Xbox late model, circa 2005, maybe 6. All right, let's get back to our secondary monitor. Ooh, excuse the noise level there. All right. So where was I? Where's my ruler? Ah, here it is. Okay, good. We're going to need this ruler. This ruler is very, very important. So bottom line is, yeah, if I turn these off, you can see the VU meter is dancing. That is the background noise being picked up by this microphone. Also, when I speak from far away, it's going to remain in the bottom of the yellow zone. It's a bit low right now. And if I speak loudly, like real loud, we go into the red zone. And so by turning on these two filters, we can both deal with the background noise and prevent me from, you know, blowing out the amp or, you know, going out into the red zone. Now, with the dynamic microphone, I have yet to fully configure it. All I did was copy and paste my existing filter settings from one to the other. And so these will need some tweaking before we get a good experience. And so right off the bat, what we might notice is, let's give it a second. I'm going to go silent. It's doing pretty well, actually, but it's picking up some background noise, and it's going to pick up a low-level hum, which I can verify and demonstrate in a second. But what we're going to do is do compressor, filter, OBS, and then we'll do a expander. So an expander filter reduces background noise, whereas the compressor filter is going to deal with making it, you know, not get too loud. It's going to prevent us from getting too loud. And so as it stands right now, on the Q9U, I think the compressor is already doing what it's supposed to do. Also, I may have to adjust what I'm doing here, but as it stands right now, I'm also goosing up the output gain on the compressor, which confuses the crap out of me, but it works. If we go to the Windows sound settings, my condenser, my dynamic microphone, I should say, is set to a gain of 90. And usually if you lower it a bit, you'll pick up less background noise. You'll pick up less of that low-level hum. But if it's not loud enough, you don't necessarily want to bring it above 100. So what I usually do is I don't bring it to 100. I don't bring this to 100. Never bring this to 100, or I try to avoid it. And I try to remedy it by cranking up the volume. Now, by default, this slider here was like down here. So I maxed it out. I don't know if that's a bad idea or a good idea, but I'm going to leave it be. And then the rest of the shortfall is filled in over here. Testing 1, 2, test. And I don't think I'm going to need to make it much louder. But as I sit back, yeah, that is going to be a minor challenge to cope with. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that alone for now. As for our background noise, well, watch what happens when I move the threshold. See, now it's letting in more background noise when I lower the threshold. If I crank it up, it does a little bit better. But my concern is this is 20 right over here, negative 20. And I don't really want to bring this higher than the yellow zone. We can also do something else. We can try adjusting the ratios. There we go. A 2.8 to 1 ratio seems to improve matters a bit. Too loud. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. So now let's go to our compressor and see how that can help us out. Testing 1, 2. Ooh, that makes it real low. So why did that happen? Well, so if I lower the threshold to negative 40 dB, which is over here, what is happening is that the minute the volume level goes above negative 40, it's going to suppress the levels by a 10 to 1 ratio. Now we can try lowering it. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing. Oh, whoops. Testing 1, 2. And so this is going to prevent us from going into the red zone on the dynamic. Testing 1, 2. All right, cool. We're going to leave it to 7 to 1. We're going to leave the threshold at 24. And then we're going to do a side-by-side comparison now. And so in OBS, I can simply toggle them. I can mute one or the other. So the left side is my condenser microphone. This is a, I'm sorry, mixing these up. This is a dynamic microphone. This is a condenser microphone. This one has the advantage of being slightly more omnidirectional. It's in a cardioid pattern, so there's a heart-shaped field where it can pick me up. This one is a polar pattern. I have to speak into the front of it. I could be 4 or 8 inches away, but I got to be speaking into the front of this. By the way, this is like the poor man's version of the Shure M7B, the popular microphone that every like big podcaster, every streamer has. That, you know, weird one with the little wire and the plastic thing that goes right here. Yeah, that's the Shure, whatever it is. Shure, I think it's the M7B. We're gonna look it up right now. So it's gonna be Shure SM7B. So let's get a picture of this puppy up on screen, and I think you're gonna recognize this bad boy when you see it on screen, because it's like a $400 microphone. So this microphone cost me like $160, something like that, and it is a, in my opinion, a solid alternative to this puppy right over here. Now this one, an interesting thing is that both microphones have a, you know, a little threaded mount right here. You can see how I put it on my pole. But the difference is when you plug the XLR cable into the Shure SM7B, there's like that little plastic thing on the side. You can see right here, right? This thing here. And then a really thin cable. Why does it have that? Well, as it turns out, one of the things I saw in various reviews for the Samson Q9U is that when you plug a XLR cable into it, which goes right into the back, a little tangled up over here. Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, right. Excuse the little tangle here. When you plug this thick cable here, which remember is 3 strands of copper basically, and a solid hunk of metal going into that port. All right, please don't get messed up. All right, go. All right, good. So point is, any vibration that goes through this cable, like if I literally go, the vibration will go here and get picked up by the mic. So that is one of the complaints I saw in the reviews. And yeah, it's a valid complaint, but there are ways to deal with it. For one, I'm currently using USB Type-C, and that's a pretty thin cable. And frankly, I don't really see a difference. Look, I mean, as it turns out, whether you are using an XLR cable or a USB Type-C, your computer does not have an XLR port on it without some kind of without some kind of USB interface. This has a USB port on it, right? So bottom line is, effectively an XLR mic becomes a USB microphone when you plug it in. Furthermore, I have an ancient interface. This is great for bass guitars. It's probably not great for this. So anyway, at some point I will do a direct comparison between USB Type-C and the interface, but I haven't noticed any advantage with that interface for what we're doing now. Why would someone use XLR? Well, the way XLR works is kind of cool. It works on a similar principle to twisted pair Ethernet cables. So you have 3 pins, and the idea is that you really only need 2 pins to carry your audio signal. The 3rd pin is sort of like a signal, an interference canceling out feature. It cancels out interference that gets picked up, you know, essentially like with only 2 wires with a basic 1/4-inch microphone, you're going to pick up interference. I just want to say goodnight to the clobbering times stream over here. But yeah, on any like 2-pin audio cable, like this stereo headphone jack, if I put this on an extension cable that is obscenely long, it will pick up interference like crazy, like no tomorrow. And so XLR solves that by adding a 3rd pin, and the 3rd pin is susceptible to interference, but then what they can do is they can actually offset the interference. There's a way, like a circuitry, a method in doing audio circuitry to offset interference. And if I have a Ethernet cable, so if I cut, let me see what I, okay, yeah, I'm not pulling that out. So if I was to cut this open, you would have 4 pairs, 4 twisted pairs. And what that means is that every pair of the 4 pairs are twisted together. And they call it differential signaling. Basically, if you get interference on one of the 2 wires in a pair, the waveform of the interference is going to be offset to one another. So you're going to have like peaks, like, you know, like on a oscilloscope. And if you have it set up where the peaks are like not directly lined up, but like one is like opposite to the other peak, the interference can be automatically subtracted. It's like very magical. If I had it, I wish I had a twisted pair cable here, because I usually keep an extra, you know, strand of twisted pair Ethernet cable in my desk for odd jobs. Like when you're doing soldering, it can be really nice to have a spare piece of a spare length of twisted pair Ethernet cable. And I might just slice up a cable. You know what? I have a cable right here. Hang tight for 3 seconds. I'm going to retrieve, whoops, excuse the noise level, I apologize. I'm going to retrieve a twisted pair Ethernet cable to drive the point home. Beautiful. Alrighty, we got it. Oh. Mm-hmm. Excelente. All right. It's a very short run of Ethernet cable right here, but here goes nothing. Okay. So that's a piece of Cat5, right? You see 4 conductors right here. You actually see 8 conductors, but 4 pairs. Excellent. So every Ethernet cable has a fiberglass riser in there to add strength when you're running a long cable. And 4 twisted pairs. So you have like blue and striped blue. See, it's got like a little stripe there. And they're twisted together. And so essentially, if you look up twisted pair Ethernet cable and how it works, essentially having them hooked up like this will cancel out interference in both cables. And it's just a basic principle. This is why you can have what they call UTP, unshielded twisted pair Ethernet cable. And this will carry a good solid gigabit signal. In fact, it'll carry a 10 gigabit signal, even though this is just Cat5e, and many people will insist that you need to have Cat6 to carry a gigabit signal. No, you'll carry a 10 gigabit signal, I should say, over Cat5e instead of Cat6. You just will have to keep it short, you know, but if you keep it short, yeah, it'll happily do 10 gigabit speeds. And so XLR cable, that's the main advantage. So why am I emphasizing this? Well, I just want to acknowledge that XLR cable does have some clear advantages in that regard, but really USB is not getting interference. USB is a digital standard, so if there's interference on the line, it's still going to carry the same digital signal to my USB port. But if the signal is really bad, if I put the USB cable on a really long extension, yeah, it's going to drop the connection. It's going to just disappear. It happens. But it hasn't happened to me except with my telescope, and that's because I run like a 20-foot USB cable. In fact, that I solved by getting what they call an active repeater. So anyway, we're going to get to the topic at hand now. I kind of spent a lot of time on this one aspect alone, which is a little maddening, but let's keep going here. So now we want to do our microphone shootout, right? Okay, so bottom line, XLR cables have a lot in common with twisted pair Ethernet cable. That is the bottom line. So now we're going to do the microphone comparison. Oh, it's so cool. I got Mr. Fantastic Fun Federation. Yeah, and I know your name. It's like some, you know, it's funny. I went to your channel, Fantastic Fun Federation Fantasy February. And I'm going to just, you actually have like an @ symbol name. You do. You got Spaghetti and Trek. That is so much easier for me to read. It's good to see you, Spaghetti and Trek. Thank you for tuning in. So anyway, and thank you for the compliment. So basically now, after emphasizing the difference between, like, you know, the advantage or why XLR cables exist, the only other reason why an XLR cable would be a good thing to have is if you wanted to hook up 4 microphones to one interface, or you wanted to like split the microphone signal and send it to a PA system. XLR is cool because you could run this, unlike a USB cable, you cannot run a USB cable 100 feet. You could run this 100 feet and you could put it through a splitter and you could put it all over the place. And, you know, in like a band, you need that, you know, when you have a band, you need that capability, you know, when you want to hook a microphone up to a PA system. So anyway, now let's do the microphone comparison. Now that I got that out of the way, basically explaining why or what makes this different. And so bottom line is that thin cable prevents the vibration from going through the thick cable into the microphone itself. It, you know, and then you can put this on a shock mount. The Shure SM7B is like $400. The Q9U is 130, 150, but 160, I think, actually. I keep moving the price up, but yeah, I think it's like 160. And it gives you comparable sound. It's also plagued by the issue that you got to speak directly into it or within a few inches. You'll notice a lot of major podcasters will have that microphone pretty close. They'll have it on a mount like this so that they can have it at an optimal position. And that's why they do that. But now, how are my audio filters? Well, I think they're tweaked, but I'm going to have to play it back now. So sound check, 1 2 1 2, testing 1 2. Condenser microphone, testing 1 2. Sound check, testing 1 2. And then from there, I do have an instance of Audacity running, and that is a audio recording program, which is what I used before this stream to really get everything dialed in, to really test it out thoroughly. And if I remember correctly, condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone. So if you had a hard time hearing the difference, I did too. But we're gonna do, for example, once again, we're on the G-Track Pro. Testing condenser microphone, testing 1 2 1 2. Then so far you only heard the dynamic microphone. And then if I switch to dynamic microphone, testing 1 2 1 2. Testing condenser microphone, testing 1 2 1 2. Dynamic microphone, testing 1 2 1 2. So I have observed one minor issue, but the bottom line is that at this proximity, where I'm sitting further away from this microphone, it loses bass. I gotta lean in on it to get bass. Hey, what's up, Action Man Gaming? Good to see you too. And please, both of you guys, feel free to post links. I mean, I'll do it too, but you're more than welcome to always post links to your channel. It's because I like what you guys do, and you guys have pretty wholesome, family-friendly content. And even if you didn't, I'd be cool with it. But yeah, so just gonna drop the link as long as you don't mind. I hope you don't mind. I dropped your link for you. But I definitely would want to implore people to check you all out. And look at that. I did not have all selected in notifications. I'm going to put all here. Look at that. So I'm going to click all. I had it on personalized. So there we go. We're looking good there. Did I paste it yet? I did not paste it. Yeah, that's great. I really, those retro game streams, Mr. Ferengi, have been wonderful. I mean, like, you put me onto a couple of cool games recently, like, and I got like whatever's not available on Nintendo Switch, I have it on other platforms. I have a flash cartridge on my Game Boy Micro and 3DS. So I'm able to get these games. I got a Steam Deck that's loaded with emulation. I got modded Xboxes. So anyway, let's get to here. So let's do the test on the condenser one more time, and I'm just gonna carefully mute one of these. I'm gonna actually switch the microphones. I'm gonna do real quick like that. So now it's on condenser mic, and we're gonna do it one more time here. Sound check, testing 1 2. Condenser, testing 1 2. We're actually gonna do that again. Testing condenser microphone, testing 1 2. Oh crap, wrong microphone. Wait, one more. Testing condenser microphone, testing 1 2. Now we're going to switch to the dynamic microphone, and that's going to be this bad boy right here. So I'm going to go and switch it. I've already switched it over here. And then we proceed. Once again, I press letter R. Dynamic microphone, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. We hit stop. Testing condenser microphone, testing 1 2. Dynamic microphone, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. So these are using no filters. The condenser microphone is this guy here. No filters on either in Audacity. And it definitely sounded a bit more high-pitched, a little bit more nasally. Granted, it did pick up more background noise due to the wider pickup pattern. This one here had a narrower pickup pattern, but it was susceptible to this low-level humming sound. And part of that could be the way I'm amplifying it. Part of that could be just the sheer noise coming out of my tower, the fans, and the 4 8-terabyte hard drives. And so now we're going to jump over to OBS and get a proper comparison. So I'm going to tell my Stream Deck, well, either way, I can press the button here, and stop recording. And then I'm going to resume recording when I'm ready to fire up the test. I'm going to do the same thing we did in Audacity, but we're going to play it back from Open Broadcast Studio so I can actually hear it. Nice. That's cool to get a PlayStation 4. That's great. So when it comes to microphones, I can recommend, I can give you some information what I've learned so far. So before I go into the comparison on the OBS side where I'm applying filters, Interesting. Voice modulator. Yeah, it might be a little sketchy. The microphone might be a little sketchy there. That's interesting. So basically, let's talk about this microphone real quick. Whoa, okay, let's get this. Now, I have this pop filter here because it is absolutely necessary, because the way this works is in cardioid mode, there's a heart-shaped pattern coming out the front of a condenser microphone. Condenser microphones are theoretically more delicate, but I picked this one up first because I wanted to be able to sit back or sit forward, you know, move around and, you know, get like, be able to not be married to the microphone, you know, move around a bit. It has some switches. It can do mono or 2-track stereo, you know, left and right channel. I keep it in mono because why would I want it in stereo? It's got 3 modes. Figure 8, it's got a little switch here. Figure 8, which literally is a figure 8, meaning that literally it picks up sound from this side and of this side. And so if you were interviewing people or you had people sitting on a table, and a round table or a 2-sided table, you could put this in the middle of the table and it would record people on both sides from one microphone. And an omnidirectional is exactly what it sounds like. It's omnidirectional. It's like everywhere, all around the microphone. I've never used it, but when I toggle omnidirectional mode on, it will pick up more background noise. No doubt about that. So I'm keeping it in cardioid mode because I don't want it picking up sound from behind. When I had it mounted to this pole, it would be upside down, obviously without this stand. And this capsule here would be facing me with the pop filter in front of it. And this pop filter is real important because when you speak closely into the microphone, we get what we call plosives. And a plosive is when you like do that Peter Piper or any P sound, and P sound, T sounds, and it will make a popping sound. And we can even demonstrate that here probably. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start recording. Okay, microphone test. Samson Q9U in OBS using audio filters. Now we're gonna switch to the other one. So we're going from Samson Q9U to Samson G-Track Pro condenser microphone. And as it's set up right now, I have filters set up. These filters prevent me from going too loud into the red zone. They also suppress background noise, and that's the compressor and expander respectively. The expander is preventing us from getting too loud. I think I always mix these up. The expander filter suppresses background noise. Is it a microphone sales stream? No, I'm just giving information. I mean, you could use it as a sales stream, but if anything, this is not just a microphone sales stream. This is a Samson, not Samsung, Samson microphone sales stream, because I mean, that's what I got right here. I got a Samson. It's good to see him, President Neckbeard. Yeah, because I have 2 Samson microphones, and like I said, I bought this one. If you were here earlier, I don't know if you were here earlier, but this Samson Q9U is like the poor man's version of the Shure M7B, with the only disadvantage being that when you use an XLR cable, it's going to be more susceptible to vibration, because unlike the SM7B, it doesn't have that isolated XLR port. That isolated XLR port helps to separate it from vibration, whereas the Q9U, this big fat XLR cable is going straight into the microphone. So any vibration that gets banged into these strands of copper will translate into the mic, theoretically. I'm currently using it in USB-C mode. But anyway, circling back here, monitor number 2. So yeah, bottom line is, yeah, if I turn off the filter at expander, and you look at the VU meter, you're going to see background noise. And you might even hear it if you're wearing headphones. See? It's picking up background noise when I don't speak, but the instant I turn on the filter, it's going to go away. And that's because if sound does not cross the threshold of 26 dB, it's going to force it to get lower by a 2-to-1 ratio. But once sound goes above this line right here where negative 24 is, it's going to allow it to get louder and whatnot. Whereas compressor prevents us from going above the red zone. It minimizes it so that essentially whether I'm sitting up close or sitting back here, we're going to remain in the yellow zone. If I was to turn off both filters, especially compressor, now look at that. I'm in the low yellow. I'm almost in the green. And if I go up here, yeah, it can hear me, but now I got to sit real close to it, you know? So having the compressor filter helps to keep our audio level is normalized. Okay, so now I gotta do the other microphone one more time. So we do Samson condenser microphone testing 1 2. Samson dynamic microphone testing 1 2. Condenser speaking up close testing 1 2. Dynamic microphone testing 1 2. All filtered ending recording. So now if I go back to the OBS recordings on this monitor here, we go to the top of the list, we open that up. We do Samson condenser microphone testing 1 2. Samson dynamic microphone testing 1 2. Condenser speaking up close testing 1 2. Dynamic microphone testing 1 2. All filtered ending recording. All right. So I made some observations here. So at least with my current filter settings, two things are happening. The sound is still kind of muddy. Also, by the nature of how the expander filter works, whenever I do speak, it's letting all of the voice in. It's also letting background noise in. So when I don't speak, it's silent. But when I start speaking, it does pick up the humming sound. So let's remedy that right now. So how are we going to remedy that? Well, easy peasy, 1 2 3 ABC. Okay, that's not a thing. But anyway, we're going to just lower this right here. So we're going to go and bring this guy to 80 for now. And we're going to jump back here. Now, what was the consequence of that? Well, now I'm not hitting the red zone quite as much, but I mean, it's working. Testing 1 2. Now, I want to yell into the microphone, but I don't want to piss you guys off. So I'm going to mute the mic and yell. Well, that's interesting. It didn't really hit the red zone, but we're a bit on the low end right now. We need to address that. So we're going to go to filters and we're going to play with the compressor. I always mix these up. I think it's the compressor. Yeah. So one thing I could do is I could try cranking up the dB. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, I think I can live with that. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. That might be a little on the loud side. We're going to start with 7.9. Okay. Samson Q9U microphone using updated filter setting. Testing 1 2. Testing from far away. Testing up close. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. And then the condenser microphone, as opposed to dynamic, of course, sounds better when I'm up close as opposed to far away. And yes, I do understand that I mean, do you really have a beard on your neck, or does President Lincoln? Well, you are President Lincoln, I guess. Yeah, you are President Neckbeard. And I do. Yeah, look. Trust me, I'm a computer geek, so I know that neckbeards are essential. You know, you're into the Linux or Unix community, and back in the 90s, neckbeards were essential to existing in that community. That was like a thing. That is a known thing. If you type in like, Unix, UNIX operating system and the word neckbeard, you will get search results of people who are real. Some of them pretty important to the history of operating systems. Samson Q9U microphone using updated filter setting. Testing 1 2. Testing from far away. Testing up close. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I really hate it. I don't hate it, but I'll explain. And then the condenser microphone, as opposed to dynamic, of course, sounds better when I'm up close as opposed to far away. And yes, I do understand that you okay. Like, I mean, do you really have a beard on your neck, or does President Lincoln? Excuse me. So anyway, so where was I now? Yeah, so I still get that humming sound. I mean, maybe it's the headphones, but I'm hearing that So yeah, I mean, like, overall, I'd say it's a good microphone. I just like to get rid of that humming sound there. So we're going to go back to Audacity. I'm going to have the Audacity to use this application. Yes, it is an epic beard of the neck. So basically, what I'm illustrating is when I hit play, we get a low-level hum in the desktop audio VU meter. not very loud, but I should address that. So to address that, we're going to bring the volume level down to 72. It's still there. I don't know what's normal or not. Testing. Q9U. Testing 1 2. Testing. Q9U. Testing 1 2. It's pretty clear, but now it's a bit on the low side, right? So that is like, I think the big challenge for me with switching to or deciding to make regular use of this microphone. I was actually of the hope and expectation that this microphone would do a better job of isolating background noise. And so I'm not even sure if the background noise is like line noise. I'm pretty sure it's coming from my computer's fans. And if I was to move this further away or aim it like this, it might pick up less noise. And so to demonstrate that, I'm going to hit record. Okay, the humming sound got lower there. It did get lower. So I'm going to highlight this now. Point it upwards at me and record. We'll go back to the beginning where the humming sound is loudest. That's very interesting. So basically, if we look at the VU meter while I'm playing it back, you're going to see the hum is definitely lower over here when I aimed the microphone like that. And I think what's happening is it's picking up sound from my computer's fans to the side ever so slightly. But what can we do to cope with that? Well, we're going to go into advanced audio filters now. Now, this is what I was not planning on doing, but let's do it. So what we do here is we go to filters, and you know what? If I'm going to use an advanced audio filter, we're going to crank this back up to like at least 80. At least 80, right? Maybe louder. Maybe. I got to mute again and yell. Okay. So, yeah, what gain level on the input of 80. It's going to pick up that low level hum still. And so to cope with that, and I do feel that I should be a little louder. We're going to try 85, testing 1, 2. Hopefully that's as loud as I need to make it. Now, let's go to filters, and we got this guy right here, VST 2.x plugin. So, oh, wait. Okay, good. So let me explain how this plugin works here. Let me just move the window around. I need to make sure I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the way this filter works is when you click this checkbox here, it looks at the yellow line, the dim yellow line, and it draws this red line to match up with the loudest part of that yellow line. And essentially any noise that is below that red line will get blocked out. And so this is a more advanced method of doing what the expander filter does already. Because the expander seems to work best when you're not speaking. The minute you start speaking, the expander filter is more prone to issues. But this here will actually filter. So I'm going to build a new noise profile. And then what I like to do is sometimes lower it a little bit by holding down control and dragging the peaks down. It says down here, shift draws a line, control moves the entire group of lines. So, you know, it moves it in unison. Alternatively, we can also adjust individual parts of the waveform here. In fact, already it's letting in a lot of sound. So let's rebuild it. And so now it's basically going to keep out the worst of the bass. Basically, this part right here represents that low-level hum I was complaining about. That and as you can see, it's blocking out most of it. Now, the problem is if you let this filter do its job too aggressively, it will alter the sound of your voice. So we're going to do an experiment now by toggling this off and on. Testing VST plugin, VST standalone, on, off. Testing 1, 2 with the filter on. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, now let's go ahead and play this puppy back. On. Testing VST plugin, VST standalone, on, off. Testing 1, 2 with the filter on. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, now let's go ahead and play this puppy back. Okay, so second voiceover, it sounded like hard to hear, but I can hear something. So I'm going to do this again. This time I'm going to simply like turn it on and I'm going to start talking. Okay, so wait, let's start again. Alrighty, plugin is off. The plugin is off. We are now going to turn on the plugin now. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. You may be hearing a low-level hum, especially if I speak really low. You're going to hear a low-level hum. Oh, wait, not really. Now you're going to hear a low-level hum. Do you hear that humming sound? It cuts through underneath my voice unless I speak really loud. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Filter on. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Filter off. Testing 1, 2. 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 End of test. Test concluded. Okay, so I'll explain what I just did. So, unfortunately, you didn't see me clicking the button. I was clicking the on-off button. I forgot to switch back to that monitor. But we now have a recording. And when I play it back, when I nod my head up, it means the filter is on. When I nod my head down, it means the filter is off. So with that in mind, alrighty, plugin is off. The plugin is off. We are now going to turn on. Yeah, I don't know when I muted my audio. I forgot. So anyway, bottom line, when I nod my head up, the filter is on. When I nod my head down, the filter is off. Alrighty, plugin is off. The plugin is off. We are now going to turn on the plugin now. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. You may be hearing a low-level hum, especially if I speak really low. You're going to hear a low-level hum. Oh, wait, not really. Now you're going to hear a low-level hum. Do you hear that humming sound? It cuts through underneath my voice unless I speak really loud. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Filter on. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Filter off. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. You know when you have that Star Trek episode where like a character gets cloned or they have to meet their duplicate counterpart from a different timeline? It never occurred to me I could do that now. I can actually talk to myself. I should do that. One of these days I need to make a video where I talk to myself. That would be pretty fun. Alrighty, let's resume the test here. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. End of test. Test concluded. Okay, so I'll explain what it's like. Very, very elusive here. And frankly, I'm at a state where I'm really about to just put my main microphone back on because it works. I'm happy with it. It works. Like this one here is going to need further exploration. But like, yeah, I'm like, you know, like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any opinions on the audio quality. It's possible that I'm obsessing over it a bit too much. It's possible that all I got to do is lower. In fact, my volume is really loud. So when I test it out, I should probably lower my volume to get a fair comparison. But, you know, I mean, like this one here, I just feel like... Okay, so that might be the ideal setting there. Yo, you know what I'm talking about though? There was like, I love that episode when Data, you know, what was it? He had like to pour a bottle of antimatter down some well or something like that. Not a well, but it was like the episode where it was time travel. I don't think it was an Iconian episode, but it was like 5 or 10 Datas in the same room. But then there's those other episodes where like when Picard had to interact with himself. But in that episode, you know, the second Picard was a bit like, you know, out there. He didn't come back. He didn't act normally until the timelines were like, you know, converged. So anyway, I want to try this out again. So noise floor testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Turning off filter now. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Filter off. Testing filter on. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Yeah, that was a good episode. I gotta put my animated GIF collection up. I you know, like if you remember the Iconian episode when the USS Yamato blew up, you know, when it pretty much got, you know, burned by its own antimatter. I made like a cool animated GIF. I do birthday cards. Like I'll literally make Star Trek greeting cards as multimedia messages, and one of them is the one where the USS Odyssey gets kamikazed by a Dominion warship or fighter, whatever it's called, Dominion ship. Yeah, it gets, you know, rammed by the Dominion ship, and then you got like this gaping hole. In fact, I can reenact it. I can reenact it. Yes, I can. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you didn't think I had a Starship Enterprise in my drawer, did you? What? So it was the episode when the USS Odyssey is like trying to retreat because one of their warp nacelles is all busted up, right? And a Dominion ship, you know, Dr. Bashir is all like, oh, one of the ships is making a run for the Odyssey. And then it does. It kamikazes. And it leaves a gaping hole in the deflected dish and the front of the star drive. And it just like looks like hell. And then a few seconds later, the antimatter eats it up and you know, and the usual thing happens. Except, just like the Yamato, the saucer section does not get away. Oh, the Yamato, the saucer section looked like it was going to get away, right? When that ship blew up, the saucer section looks like it was going to get away. And then, you know, it melted, it got burned, it got deconstructed from the inside out. But anyway, getting back on topic, see how easily sidetracked I can get? Let's get back to this. So I want to hear my own audio test now. Noise floor testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Turning off filter now. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Filter off. Testing filter on. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I'm liking this. Yeah. I'm liking this. I'm actually okay with this. Yeah, I can live with that. Now, there's only one more thing I want to mention about the microphone I'm using. And to do that, I got the user manual on one of my browser tabs. And there's a diagram. Yeah, so there's like a typical usage example there. This talks about the polar pattern where it's very highly directional. Okay, there's a few switches on the back here. This switch up here basically activates or deactivates midtones. So right now, I think I have it on. It says when the switch is engaged, you will hear a boosted mid-range presence, which is sort of like between bass and treble. So it's somewhat deeper. Ideal for spoken word applications. Well, I'm speaking into the microphone, so I turn that on. But I think we need to turn it off and on to truly see what happens. So we're going to mute. We're going to begin recording now. Testing mid-level, mid-tones on. Testing 1 2. Now I just moved the switch. Mid-level is on. Testing 1 2 1 2. Let's see what happens. Testing mid-level, mid-tones on. Testing 1 2. Mid-level is on. Testing 1 2 1 2. Can barely hear it. Let's get back to Audacity. I got the audacity to use this application. Okay, I got awful jokes. I know. I'm sorry. Testing mids on. Mid-level on. Mid-level off. Mid-level off. Testing mids on. Mid-level on. Mid-level off. Mid-level off. So, I don't know which one sounds better, but you know what's interesting? That humming sound I was getting before probably goes away. You know, if I was to simply turn off the mid-level thing, or, you know, turn off the mid-level boost. But I kind of think I'm going to stick with the bassier voice. It's a tough call. Testing bassy mode. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2. And thank you very much for that. I'm glad that I had an on-point reenactment of the Yamato incident. I strive to be accurate when I can. I'm not always good at remembering details, but when I am able to remember them, I do like to, you know, show that I can remember. Testing bassy mode. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2. It's a tough decision. Like, so when you have the mid-level switch on, it's going to sound bassier. Like right now, it's on. As opposed to when I turn it off. Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay, we got mid-level boost is enabled. Testing 1 2 1 2. Mid-level boost is off. Testing 1 2 1 2. Excuse me, I belched for a second. So yeah, I'm going to go and basically do mid-level on. Wait, how do I do this? Okay. Well, anyway, I guess I'll just play with it. So that is the comparison. Overall, I got to be honest, I'm very tempted to go back to using this microphone. I mean, I probably will go back to it very quickly and soon. And when I'm taking things apart, it's probably better to have something that's more directional instead of a polar pattern. Whereas if I was doing a podcast or something very, you know, specific, having this polar pattern might be the way to go. But at this point, I think all I can do is do a final comparison of both microphones and then like call it a day. And then I might return in a little while because I want to do some Xbox mod related stuff, but I think I should probably start a new stream before I do that. So I figure get a glass of water, come back with a new stream running, and basically at that point, basically I already have the Xbox up and running. Like it's wonderful. I'm going to talk about basically pro tips on Xbox soft modding, and what it comes down to is I have this adapter that I bought, and it basically, well, I'll get to that, but there's some interesting comparison between this adapter and this adapter, and well, we'll get to that afterwards. So yeah, that's a cool Enterprise. That's like the by the way, is that the Playmates or the Maytel one? It might be the Playmates one. Let me see here. It should say the company here. Made in China, patent pending. But yeah, this was a great childhood toy. I just love that it does the saucer step. Now, I wish I can get the original Enterprise, the NCC-17. I do have one. I actually do have one. You know, just a quick side note. My friend Mike Pacific 414, he does a stream called the Collector's Stream, and he gives people an opportunity to show up and show their collections. So, you know, if any of you ever have collectibles that you want to show, you know, stay tuned with Pacific 414. You could any one of you can come on his stream if you got collectibles to show when he does a collector's stream. Wow, you're 21. To be 21 again. I wish I was 21. How old do I look? Seriously, I'm curious how old I look. I want to know if I still got it. I want to know if I still have my youth. If I still have my youth and beauty. If I need to get plastic surgery yet. Okay, I'm messing around. I don't know. So yeah, this is dope. So, I mean, this is dope here, but this is cool. But, okay, yeah, you're pretty close. That's actually about right. I think I'm 36. I lost count. I stopped counting last year. But yeah, now I'm 36. So I'll take the year. I guess I'll take it. If you think I'm a year younger, I'll take it. So yeah, you know, like they have I think they have a metal toy, a die cast or a steel or whatever this material is of the original, but I can't find it anymore for cheap. But I have this one here. Had this since I was like 10. So it's like, you know, 11 years younger than you are now, Action Man. But yeah, it's a nice Connie, and I gotta get through to this stripped screw. There's a screw on here. This thing is stripped bad. Yo, that is like not even a, look at that. That's not a Phillips head screw anymore. Like, I'm not even sure how to attack that. I have a couple ideas, but that is going to be a pain in the butt. My best bet is probably to get like an extractor bit and just deal with it like that. Luckily, this is a relatively soft metal, so as long as I get a sufficiently small extractor bit, I could do it. Otherwise, I could get a really fine drill bit and just probably drill out this thread. But obviously, I don't want to ruin it. And then I could get a different screw to replace it. But I don't think this screw is coming out on its own volition. I don't think this screw is ever coming out on its own. Like, I remember when I was like 12 years old, I asked my dad to help me get this out. And he goes, oh, it's all stripped. And he managed to get the battery out. But after that, I don't think we're ever getting that out again. Oof. So yeah, but it's a pretty cool one. Some of the decals are a little crooked because I was 10 when I put them on. But I still love it. I still treasure it. You know, it's got the top decal is good. The NCC 1701 registry number, that is good. You know, and what I was thinking about doing about the side here is either getting, you know, I got inkjet printable water slide decals. Basically, you know, put it through the inkjet printer, you cut the edges off, and then you put water on them, and you put them up on the side of the model, and the water, you know, slides off. It's like a transparent printout. And you use these on model kits. So I was thinking of printing out water slide decals to replace the, you know, transparent decal that is beginning to peel off, or it's been peeling off for years. And I probably have to scrub this clean with alcohol, or I don't know. This needs some love. In fact, I'm not sure if this thing was put under something or if this thing was always like this. It might have had an altercation with the basement floor, judging by the looks of it. So yeah, this thing needs some TLC. I have a couple of ideas to manage that. But I could do water slide decals. I was thinking about airbrushing the decals on, but I think the water slide decals are the way to go, because you need to really be precise with that airbrush. You need to put masking tape all over it, and as much as I think I can do it, the reality is I probably can't. Because I was doing the Rocinante from The Expanse recently, and my precision on the airbrush was way off. But, you know, I'm still learning. Live and learn, you know. So, gonna put this guy away. I'll let you get one more look at the Galaxy class. By the way, any of you guys watched the new Picard? I mean, a friend of mine did a watch party. So I didn't, you know, I don't have CBS All Access, but I went to the watch party. I actually didn't watch the whole episode, but I watched, you know, all of episode 1 and episode 2. I'd say, like, if I had to be honest, I guess in the low standards of Star Trek in the current day, I guess it was good in comparison based on our low standards. But my biggest issue with the new Picard episode was, like, the obvious effort to pull at our heartstrings, the member berries, I should say, or, you know, where you play music from Next Generation, which wouldn't be so bad on its own. And then they're playing music from the movies. They're playing music from Star Trek 3. I'm sitting there like, why are they playing Star Trek 3 movie, like movie music? And the only reason is because some people, they hear the movie music from Star Trek 3 and they go, reminds me of Star Trek. I love it. It's Star Trek again. But it's like, no, now you're just throwing the kitchen sink at me. And it insults my intelligence that, you know, the showrunners are doing this. On the other hand, this Metalis guy, Terry Metalis, he seems to like Star Trek more than that other jerk-off, Kurtzman. So there's that. But who knows if that's going to hold up past episode 5. So I'm trying to be fair. You know, like, I guess if they improve the show, I should be reasonable about it. You you know, I totally skipped season 2. What I've heard about it, I'm not looking to watch season 2. Season 1 pissed me off of Picard when they had the copy and paste fleet when Riker came in to save the day. And he's got a fleet of ships that are identical because they were too lazy to pay the CGI team to make more ships. And then in this new episode of season 2 of Picard, episode 1, you see the Titan refit. And number 1 is like the registry number is like the Enterprise A, right? It's like Titan refit 170, whatever the registry is, A. And really, you don't put the letter A on the registry number of a ship unless, you know, you're building a new one. A refit doesn't get A. When they did the Enterprise refit, when they did the Constitution refit, they did not put a letter A at the end of the name. It was only after the ship was destroyed and rebuilt. And I think that was actually the Yorktown. I think I read somewhere that the Enterprise A was the Yorktown with a new label, unless I'm mixing up with the end of Star Trek 6. But anyway, let's get to the final stretch of this microphone shootout. Okay, we got 2 microphones here. And to do the final stretch of the microphone shootout, we are going to speak into each one using Audacity. So now to do this, I'm going to actually switch to my condenser mic real quick so that I don't, you know, come off too loudly. And then we're going to switch to it in here. Testing condenser microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing dynamic microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing condenser microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing dynamic microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the dynamic microphone. I think we're gonna leave it be. We're gonna just leave it be. So for the final test, testing condenser microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing dynamic microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. And that is it. We're done basically. So we're going to do one final test, really final, plus nobody's watching. Testing condenser microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing dynamic microphone. Testing 1 2 1 2. So it's bassier. It's definitely bassier. Is it muddier? I don't know, but it's definitely bassier. That is my conclusion from the last 2 tests. And overall, I think that if I lower my playback volume and adjust the levels, we're getting a better, you know, I think we're getting a pretty good experience. I don't know if one's better or not, but I'm going to roll with it. And so the only other thing, like I said, it is critical that when I'm using the, wait a second, did I do that right? Yeah. When I'm using the Q9U, I had to enable this plugin right here. Without the Reaper plugin, it's actually, there's a website called reaper.com/plugs. I can't even spell it, but I'm gonna try typing it in right now. So, and I actually did like a live stream yesterday called a tech support stream where I literally did this. So this is the plugin I downloaded right here. And basically, you know, you download it whether you got 64-bit or 32-bit. I have 64-bit OBS, as it says in the title bar. And this is what enabled me to get that noise reduction. That's what the VST 2.x is. That is literally where I downloaded it from. So the website is reaper.fm/replugs. And that is what gives us this guy right over here. And this red line is what reduces our, you know, eliminates that background noise completely. And we're using it in conjunction with these filters here, which help to normalize my audio levels. On the other hand, with the condenser microphone, I'm only using the compressor and expander and nothing else. Every other filter is disabled. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. So yeah, if anybody who tunes in on the replay or if anybody's watching now, you know, like usual, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And at this point, I'm going to end transmission, but I shall return shortly to do a quick one on the Xbox soft mod. So, you know, if anybody's interested in that, you know, come check it out. You know, it might be interesting, but in the interceding time when I'm turning everything off, I'm basically just going to lock in my settings, close all of this junk out. And then at some point, I got to make soundboard sound effects too. But over here on my Dell monitor here, if we go to settings, I'm gonna basically just yank out one of the microphones. I'm gonna yank out the G-Track Pro for now, but luckily OBS is smart enough that when I unplug this microphone, if I plug it back in later, it should still recognize the filters. So yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. I'm sure you already subscribed, but consider liking the video if you've liked what you've seen. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, leave a comment. Or if you have any negative or positive feedback, I always encourage any feedback, any commenting, as long as you're cool or nice. You know, just generally being nice. It could be negative, but just be nice. But yeah, so with that, thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to end transmission now.